Sheila here with Sirius Dallas Moon, and we are 2 days before a partial solar eclipse. Which ruler is going to be conjoining the fixed stars in Daya? That, to quote my teacher Ladudun Sheva, is about one harloting oneself. And this, the ruler of Ketu, or the ruler of the eclipse, basically conjoining Zendaya, is about people stopping to be people pleasers. And I spoke a lot about the energy reading yesterday and how standing in one's truth was basically negating trauma bonds because it created an authentic, like people had to be authentically um, themselves or be authentic with the collective. And I see how that really touches on the spirit of this eclipse. Because if extortion called trafficking campaigns, MK Ultra targeted individuals of both people and leaders, is working on trauma bonds to get people to people please, either by putting them through trauma and having this one pillar of a person or a figure that they kind of lean onto or hold onto in the time of crisis, um, or by, for some people, if I take it from voices like Annika Lucas, which is a prominent voice that really explained a lot about what's going on in the world, even if you only listen to Lucas herself. And as she said, everybody talks about Epstein. Nobody comes to Annika Lucas to talk with her. So please listen to a lady that knows what's going on. Um, and she talks about, let's say, when children were trafficked to upper echelon elite, then the parents sometimes really wanted, because children didn't know what's going on, so the parents really wanted to be a part of that elite. Very important people. And not only they're very important people, they learn how to be really charismatic. And people really wanted that sense of belonging to where the fun stuff is happening, where the cool people are. And thereby were compliant with things that are completely inhumane, including the elite themselves. And this is where a lot of the disruption for leaders is going to be, because they've been a part of a club that accepts them, and is considered a very prestigious club. They have to be invited, be born into. A lot of them don't even remember a lot of the things they got in their own life and in training. And so the people pleasing aspect here, or harloting oneself aspect here, is very significant because people are going to be fated to stop doing that, either by the results they hope to achieve by harloting themselves are just not yielding. The promising aspect of this eclipse is that through this disruption, authentic connections can be discovered because people are going to be more authentically themselves and they're going to relate more authentically. And this is where you think about even having a crush on someone or loving someone, or erotic attraction with someone, or somebody's really charismatic, or in cases where, like, certain cases, even somebody's a big celebrity or somebody is a very important figure, okay, that does things that the collective can relate to, or that the collective or beginning to do themselves, or and so on. And in that eclipse vibe, there are going to be fated events, might even be fated encounters where a person next to you could be God himself, but they're going to have to either be in a love that is actually loving, or a relation that is actually safe and free, or a communication is actually authentic and allow you to be who you are and your boundaries respected in spirit and in matter, or they're just going to have to either not be in contact with you, or that their endeavors, if they're like a business people or decision maker in the upper echelons, would have to accommodate for your sovereign being in the world. This is an eclipse that continues on the spirit of the set of eclipses we had with Ketu in Libra and the Sun and Moon next to Zendaya and Venya Metrics. And by the way, the next lunation is going to be around Venya Metrics, with placements around Venya Metrics. So that is the lunation after the eclipse. So a lot of people have been standing their ground, and for them I predict for this eclipse to have the necessary disruption where those that try to get them enchanted or even enlusted, because their actual lust, it gets so funny because I'm not going to elaborate on that, but all the things that were done in the hope that they would harlot themselves end up with them actually being authentically who they are in the face of those very important figures, and seeing the yield, seeing the results to them being authentically themselves, while those who were hoping to either get away with things or I don't know, whatever was the agenda behind, or it was simply their relational habit, okay, because the people there grow into an upbringing that is treason based, and this is where Annika Lucas had certain episodes that are very recommended to watch in that regard. At least two Dutch ladies that really tell of how the upbringing is done, so that people can have both grace and stand their grounds. Like, hey, relation with us is going to have to be safe and free, and this is where some people that were used to growing in treason and having to betray their loved ones kind of not face the consequences in face of karma and stuff like that, because this is the first decan of Libra, simply having to deal with the fact that no, people will not be people pleasing next to them, and they will not acquiesce, okay, to the many things that they're expected to, nor will they perform an act of treason. They will simply be themselves. And by the way, the antidote to treason and the antidote to betrayal is being oneself. Okay, think about that. The state of Israel did a very big treason around 7th of October. And I go, of course, when I say the state, I mean enough segments in the states and upper echelons that allowed for the invasion to happen from the perspective of Israel. What allowed that on a very deep level is lack of sovereignty, particularly sexual sovereignty in spirit and in matter, of Israeli citizens. And it's a cultural thing. There's a lovely, even people that came from the outside, like Jean-Claude Van Damme. Okay, he was working with Menachem Golan, Israeli director. He simply said they were saving money for the litigations. And even right-wing leader, Geertje Wilders, okay, 10 months ago, had a beautiful documentary. And one of the parts where it shows he was in Israel chasing the girls and so on, and everybody Israeli knows exactly what they were doing there. And so, and those, Israeli tactics or cult-like interactions with the other sex or with the other gender or with the same gender erotically are things that every Israeli knows that that's our Akev Achilles, it's our Achilles heel in the nation. I did even a video about Moshe Zayan, which is basically Moshe Dayan, okay, a military general, that's now pretty much remembered for him being a mass rapist. that's that's pretty much his legacy. So it's not something that is unique to Israel, but this is something that really emphasizes on how lack of sexual sovereignty in spirit and in matter for both men and women, because you can't be violating that sovereignty or playing weird games with the interaction without violating your own sexual sovereignty, and particularly energetically. And not having that allows such tremendous segments of the country to commit an act of treason that the people were really unprepared. 7th of October happened, people were like, where were you 12 hours? What happened? And then immediately Israel does what it does, that is now by the UN is called genocide. And Israelis were like, wait, we're isolated in the world, our country betrayed us, um, expecting us to explain our country's treason. And what happened? 2 years, 3 years into a war, that when people are invaded to such an extent, they see as, okay, we must annihilate the invaders, kind of like a small Pearl Harbor. And in the world, it's like, oh yeah, the soldiers were begging for more mental help and throwing pills at the parliament because they needed help to commit a genocide. And that's how it looks in the world. So if you think about how that entire dumbfuckery sums down to people really not having a culture of sexual sovereignty in spirit and in matter when they have interactions, which would mean that those business deals that they make are also treason based. There's a lot of eroticism that goes into business and business deals. Um, it's not just calling Trump daddy, uh, which is, by the way, relating to one of the programs. I don't remember which. Um, I don't know if that was a reference on that or not, but anyway. Um, so basically, we're gonna see many people having to stand up to the fact of where are they within the sexual sovereignty in spirit and in matter, and they are purging the people pleasing, and even the people pleasing that is in Libra. The people pleasing or the harlot in oneself has a lot to do with being a diplomat, with knowing how to work with people, with knowing how to deliver a message. But then what they're called to do is, hey, what about my authentic self here? Um, and so if they were playing games, relational games, because let's say you're a politician, then you're going to be working with people from all over the world that grew up in one giant treason cult, and you're going to have to work with their extortion and at least close an eye. As Annika Lucas said, when an Epstein rings happen around you, um, structurally they would expect the person to be a part of those things. I'm not going to elaborate further on that, but the thing is that you are expected to partake in certain, not just diplomatic relations, but certain relational patterns and erotic patterns that are not necessarily even authentic to your own desires. And as ex-prime minister, now head of NATO, put it so very eloquently, you're supposed to dance with whoever is on the dance floor. And he said it prior to the Novo Party, and now it's being litigated. And so you just see how that Zendaya, that people pleasing, that dance with whoever is on the dance floor, and then there is a Novo Party with ritual rape and murder at a dance party in Israel. And you see how it's calling to an entire revision of the entire way we're doing diplomatic relationships, jurisdiction, any act of balancing in trade, business deals, Okay, all the Libra acts of balancing one thing and another. And the first decan of Libra is really just, kind of trying to put your best foot forward, um, forgetting about the sense of self and mingling in. And this is a phase that is natural, um, but we are asked to outgrow that phase, and that a lot of the disruption that leaders are going to deal with and are dealing with, even in terms of litigation, has to do with that core issue where they were expected to dance with whomever is on the dance floor. And these dances are erotic energy, kundalini energy, mind control, and trying to psychically affect the person to be on a kundalini rise rapport with one another, so that people can sync movements and so on and so forth. Yes, I did a little journalism, it's true. And so, um, and mind you, those people are competing for their life over this position. So the body, heart, mind, and soul, in an erotic, psychosexual, business, diplomatic interaction that is actually not authentic to who they really are. And this eclipse, as well as the previous eclipses we had with Ketu in Libra, are asking us as a collective and our leaders as well to step out of that into sexual sovereign energy that's going to affect the economy, is going to affect the business, it's going to affect their own personal life for the best, their health as well. Um, and a lot of the channelings that I was receiving about the collective being kind of like a Trojan horse of love, or even targeted individuals, which the way it began to express itself, or even people that people try to traffic, okay, or try to do feminization, humiliation rituals. By the way, there's a lot of things like slut shaming or calling someone whore and so on. I know I have addressed that a lot. It's not because I care if people call someone a whore. Like if somebody has, like, let's say, king, you say, oh, you have to be like the whore in that kink. I'm like, okay, I don't relate to that kink. I don't think I could accommodate for that kink, but maybe you find somebody who likes that. No, it's that those were used to character assessing people so that they don't get help when they're being trafficked, whether within or outside of marriage. And it was a part of feminization ritual on boys as well. 99% of feminine problems began with what boys did to boys in the Masons. and so, and satanic cults, which is one and the same. And so, um, so here we have a lot of people beginning to step up, embody their authentic self, not just in teaching and preaching and channeling, but also with how they behave in psychic and personal interactions, where they're like, hey, I like you. That type of cult-like behavior can't go with me, harms my energy. I'm entitled to my own life energy and my own sexual sovereignty and sovereignty in general. And that is something that is a big, important chapter with this eclipse that is going to be a disruptive chapter. But this is something that a lot of the people that were playing the long game with our leaders and business people weren't taking into account, because the talent or the presenter, they live it, breathe it, and are it, and they are aware of what works or what doesn't work. Or if they have to dance with whomever is on the dance floor, now the dancers are like, wait, I'm not gonna get into a situation with you where I'm not fully body, heart, mind, and soul there authentically myself, nor do I expect you to. That being said, whatever you do there in the political business arena has to accommodate for my sovereign self to be in the world safe and free. And a lot of people that run into that have the natural domino effect of thinking, hey, I have been dancing with people that were not, where I had to forget about my own desires, just to accommodate for them so that I can get mine. But what is that mine that I wanted to get to begin with? And this is the questions that the first decan of Libra ask themselves as they mature and begin to work with the energy and integrate the outer polarity which is world changes. Okay, I have a colleague, Austin Coppock, that calls it world domination, Deacon, and I believe him. Like he has Mercury on his Deacon, um, so everybody has their own gnosis. I have Lilith on this Deacon, true Lilith, and the way I see it, first of all, it's why I talk about sexual sovereignty so much. Is why I have that gnosis more accessible than others. But the way I see it, if somebody asks me, "Hey, why don't you date someone? Why don't you, go out and be in a relationship?" I'm like, other people are like, in this economy. I say, in this economy, and the world stops. That rephrased. China going into a mess. Um, People try to traffic me, and there were supposed to be whistleblowers on those banking systems. Um, Real estate exposed, money laundering machine gebruikt. Um, that's having a placement on the first deacon of Aries. It's kind of world stop. And it's not even intentional. That's just like, hey, that's something that's important to me. Um, and this is something that Aries is also very innovative about. So they see trajectories. So we're going basically from the people-pleasing deacon of Libra, which each and every one of us has been in. We all have it in our chart. It's ruled by Venus, to the stop the world deacon of Aries. And each and every one of us stops the world on a different level. And that's something that really is another chapter in the tale story of the last couple of years on a very mundane level. So those that went by, and funnily enough, those that did the most manipulative things, okay, or Machiavellian things, were purging the Machiavellian, basically did that from lack of connection to their own authentic sovereign self, and that belief that they need to put their best foot forward in a society that is absolutely crooked. And they're going to be facing the fact that that to get theirs, what they wanted to get from that, is not really working in that way. Who are the people who are actually getting things done in the world? Are the people that have been connected more with the other side, which is the I stop the world deacon of Aries, not in an aggressive way, not in an abrasive way, just in an I am. I even remember what I sang, drop the Peter rings, drop the Peter rings, I am, before the eclipse. And that was completely 100% body, heart, mind, and soul, and economy, and politics, and media, and extortion calls and religion happening, okay, to the letter. Dropping the Peter rings, more of an I am. Dropping the Peter rings, more of an I am. Me connected with me, with myself, with my I am. The Peter rings drop. What was the previous deacon of Libra planning to do in my life? I don't know, but it's obvious that that integration of the I am on a psychosexual level, and even about being able to be with confusion, because Libra first deacon can be a lot about confusion, indecisiveness. It's a yin malleable energy, but within that confusion there is that this yes, this no, and unashamedly admitting our desires. And it might help to people to understand that our desires are not personified, but they are essential. And this authenticity helps to build character, to build sovereignty, but to build authenticity, and basically earns respect. But it's not about earning respect, it's about us standing in our I am, even if people think that that is rude or is not diplomatic, or they try to call people whore for not agreeing to asquiash with rape. I've seen that happen. The word can be satirical like that. Um, and for the people that are less aligned with that, of whatever situation there are, there's going to be a crisis where the things they were hoping to get um, by complying, and it's a leader's eclipse, okay? So it's a people's eclipse as well, but it's a leader eclipse. The things that they were hoping to get by complying or even trying to get other people to comply, and again, one cannot get other people to comply without complying themselves, particularly if they thought they could get away with things. This could be really disruptive for them. But this is where they find out that whatever they wanted to get, they don't get, and they have to authentically decide with myself, do I want to continue on charming the people? Where do I stand in this? And hey, the people want to be sovereign. They expect me, the representative, or me, the business person, to come up with the innovation that supports their sovereignty rather than, serving one master, making a lot of money and making it look like I serve another. Um, so that is something that eventually is blessed, because people are going to have this existential crisis of who am I, what do I want, even in really, advanced ages. Okay, that strategy that I thought to play or to serve two masters, or any strategy that relied on slavery, compliance, oppression of one gender or another, then that thing is kind of like, that's a part of the people pleasing. Any strategy that requires other people to people please is also falling flat. And what's left with is everybody's I am, and everybody tapping into their I am, even if they're like, oh my God, who am I? Amazing. This is already tapping into the I am. This is already asking about oneself, what one wants, not in a manipulative Machiavellian way, but in understanding that without being Machiavellian, they are still entitled to whatever it is that their hearts desire, as long as it doesn't violate another person's sovereignty. And even with it, they're still entitled to have, their own housing as much as the other is entitled, and so on and so forth.